Mariakanon Zen Center online session, the first of its kind that we're having, and I gather this will not be the last, but it could be. This stage show also, this Zen talk, could also be the last. Not that I'm anticipating anything, but that is an aspect that our practice always enjoins us. Live each day as if it were your last. Live this moment, this occasion, as if it were your last. And you may remove the if there, as your last, so that you are always there, living your life to the full, wherever you are. And if for some reason your life is taken away by some freak accident, like a bomb hitting right near you and you die, or after this you go out and a truck hits you, and so on, whatever you may imagine your death to be, at that moment you will know that your life has been lived to the full, even up to that point. So this is an invitation for all of us to participate in this session, living fully with each breath as our last. But at the same time, I'd like to invite everyone also to participate in this session as your very first. I see some of you, and many of you have already been to many sessions ever since we started Mariakanon Zen Center, and some of you have joined us in the past few years or even in the past few months. So you're all welcome. We're all on the same playing field, invited to live each day, live each moment as our last, but also live each day, live each moment as our first. And living it as our last gives a sense of responsibility for it. And living it as our very first gives us that sense of openness, that our life is opening right here at this very moment. So let us take it in that stride. The fullness of life is right here, right now. So with that as my starting point, I'd like to go to some basics of what Zen is and what a Zen retreat is, and then go to some of the things that you have mentioned in your aspirations about what you seek to realize during this 2-day session. Zen is about awakening. That's what draws us to this practice. We seek deep in our hearts to live as awakened, someone who is aware of the reality of what is and is not deluded by obstructions of emotions or of prejudices or of inherent biases and so on, but who is able to see things as they are, accept them, and live fully in the light of having accepted them, and be able to contribute the gift of one's life to what is. That's one way of describing what being awakened is. There's so much more I could say, but the contrast of being awakened is being asleep, being deluded, being obstructed from seeing things clearly. And the greatest obstruction that each of us somehow comes to struggle with throughout our lives is this little egoic self that we think is the center of the universe. We go on living life with this egoic self as our center, and we refer everything to that little egoic self as the center of the world. Even if we have glimpsed that world of awakening, somehow this egoic self still takes the better of us, and even sometimes takes possession of that awakening and puts it back into the level of the egoic self aggrandizing itself, saying, I'm enlightened, I'm awakened. Even that can be truly a pitfall as such. So it's an invitation to always keep returning fresh to this present moment and live this present moment as the last, and yet at the same time as the first, in a fresh way. In US culture, there is this term being woke. Being woke is being alert and being aware of the injustices of society, especially the racism that is so pervasive in this society as well as in other societies throughout the world. So to be awake, to be woke, is to see through that and not be taken in by it. So our Zen practice invites us to cultivate awareness, to be awakened in our day-to-day life, in the words that we have been presenting to those who come to orientation. It's awakening to the dynamic reality of each present moment, such that each present moment provides an opportunity for us to return the gift of life with our very life itself. That sense of the fullness of the gift that I can give because of the fullness that I keep receiving from life itself. So with that, as what we understand, as what brings us in common in our Zen practice, then the question is, how can we live a life that is awakened? This is really going back to the basics. And we turn back to the awakened one, the historical Buddha, for our guidelines. And to summarize so many things that he said, there are two words that stand out when people asked him, "Sir, how can we live an awakened life like you?" The words that he uttered in response were shamatha and vipassana. That those are two Pali words that are taken by a stream of Buddhism that has developed its style of meditation. But the words in English translation are stop and see. Stop your analytic, your comparing, your nervous and your anxious mind from all of those unnecessary activities and just allow it to be still. So it is that cultivation of stillness that is the hallmark of our practice that we share with all other Buddhists, but also different other kinds of religious practices of meditation and contemplation, allowing the mind to just be still. So for these 2 days, let us make that our theme. Just be still. In between sits, we also need to do our chores. We need to prepare our meals. We need to clean up. We need to do all sorts of things to move. We will be exercising and so on. But in all of these activities, in all of these movements, we are invited to be still. How can that be? Not that we take a very rigid position and not do anything, but without doing as such, allowing that stillness to be what governs our day-to-day and our moment-to-moment life. That stillness. And how can that stillness be cultivated? The 3 points that Zen practice provides for us are taking a posture conducive to stillness. So most of the day we will be sitting, for those of us who really will take this session seriously. And I believe in that. And also it involves being able to walk with awareness, walk in a way that we are aware of our body, taking every step. Also do our chores with awareness of all of the components there, being just there and not doing something that is different, that takes us away from the present moment and so on. Or even sitting down to relax or lying down to sleep. All of these movements can be undertaken in a way that that stillness is cultivated, that stillness of an open heart. a heart open to the universe. So now, stop. And then the second word that comes out in the Buddha's instructions on how to live an awakened life is to see, vipassana. To see is to really see through things in a way that things are seen for what they are. And that seeing is no longer to see from the dualistic perspective of the subject looking at an object out there, but to really be able to see that each thing is just as it is. A poem from the well-known Japanese poet Basho goes, to see the bamboo as the bamboo, to see the pine tree as the pine tree. In short, not objectifying them as, oh, that's a bamboo tree or that's a pine tree. But the haiku suggests that we can only see the bamboo if we remove ourselves from this perspective of a subject looking at the bamboo as if it were outside of us, but to really empty our little egoic self and be the bamboo. That sounds a little quaint in English or even in any language. How can you be a bamboo? You're a human being. But that's precisely an invitation for us to open our hearts and experience in this practice of ours, to go beyond this little egoic self and open our heart to the world so that we become the world. We become each and everything in the world. Those of us who are practicing at that stage of your journey where you are sitting and breathing with Mu, please take this to heart. Mu is an invitation to go beyond the little egoic self that is still trying to figure out what Mu is all about, but precisely as an invitation to allow yourself to enter into that place where you are no longer in control and let Mu be in control and open yourself to Mu so that it is Mu that becomes the subject and Mu becomes the object and they merge and it opens up into a vast emptiness that ironically and mysteriously and wondrously comes and contains each and everything. The bamboo, the pine, the wall, the desk, the dogs, the cats, the sky, the trees, so that the little egoic self is dislodged from its center of position in the universe, and each and everything as it is becomes the center of the universe. That is what to see entails. And this to see is precisely the character we use in our logo, kannon, kanzeon. That's a Japanese pronunciation for Quan Shi Yin, or the perceiver of the sounds of the world. Kannon. Maria Kannon is the name of our Zen center, and that kannon is precisely a way of seeing that has broken through that self versus object barrier and is able to allow things to be as they are. And what I consider to be I, myself, is no longer a distinct and separate entity, but I see myself in my intimate interconnectedness with each and everything and everyone in the universe. I am just talking about general guidelines here, but now, yes, that reminds me of what Maria talked about in her Zen talk recently from the Hebrew scriptures about the Israelites seeing the sounds, seeing the word of God. So it is not just hearing, but it is precisely a way of seeing that contains or includes all of the senses, but also a seeing that takes you out of your subjectivistic mode and allows the word that is heard to come through and be that which is the master of the moment, the word. And we're not just talking about sounds here. So please listen and see. Now, in that regard, what does that have to do with our current situation? I would like to invite us to see the words that George Floyd uttered as he was about to die. Please, I can't breathe. What does it mean? Or how can we take that word of George Floyd, which is also now the cry of the world? I can't breathe. To be deprived of the basic component that makes life what it is. And so many of our fellow sentient beings are in that situation, crying out, I can't breathe. Whether it's the physical loss of the oxygen that we all deserve as living beings because of the pollution of our external habitat, or whether it's the deprivation from food that so many of our fellow human beings are experiencing. 20,000 children dying of hunger every day throughout the world, and so many others now being deprived of the basic necessities to live as a human life because of the COVID pandemic and its economic implications. So many of our fellow human beings and sentient beings being deprived of life through violence by other human beings, or through systemic violence that deprives them of basic rights to live with dignity. These are so many things that we can name that are included in that cry of George Floyd. Please, I can't breathe. That is the koan that I would like to present for us for this session. How can we breathe with that? Please, I can't breathe. And allow that pain that comes out from the sentient beings of the earth to be what I hear and what I become, and what thereby empowers me to gift my life to the world and take the appropriate steps from here on, living my life with every day as the last and every day as the first. So I would like to offer some pointers in that regard. In hearing, please, I can't breathe, the first thing that we are moved to is really that our hearts go out and also feel that sense of lack of breath. But if we ourselves lose that capacity for breathing, then we will all be submerged in that together. So we are called to listen and join in that cry from the depths, please, I can't breathe. But at the same time, to allow ourselves to be filled with this breath that we are receiving. And let this breath that we are receiving be what we offer to all of those of our fellow sentient beings who are crying out, please, I can't breathe. So that is one pointer that I would like to suggest as a koan-like offering for our practice. Please, precisely breathe with, please, I can't breathe, and see where that takes you. And secondly, as we continue to deepen ourselves in our practice, and if we let this, please, I can't breathe, be what brings us down to that level of where the subject and object merge and dissolve and become that vast emptiness that is freeing and that is liberating and that gives us joy and gratitude. When that happens, when that breakthrough happens, another outcome, another fruit that comes out of that would be tears. Even in hearing the cries of our fellow sentient beings, human and non-human, asking for alleviation from their pain, asking for being given the basics of what they need, our heart is moved to tears. These tears are not out of pity. Of course, if we remain in the self-centered mode, we look at somebody else suffering and we think, I'm glad it's not me. And sometimes we may be led to tears, not of compassion, but of pity. But what I'd like to invite us also is to really precisely be able to hear those cries and be moved to tears in a way that those tears can be a balm. There is a koan given to practitioners in their early stages that goes, how is it that in a deeply enlightened person, crimson lines never cease to flow? In our lineage, those crimson lines, the English translation crimson lines, are translated as the lines of tears that flow from our eyes when we see pain, when we see sorrow, when we see something that cries out for help. Tears of compassion never cease to flow. And note, this is talking about a deeply enlightened person, someone who has seen through that egoic self and someone who is now living an awakened life. For such a person, tears never cease to flow. Let us then open our hearts so that those tears may well up in us and empower us to be a balm for the world with the gift of our own life. Now, all this is incumbent upon each of us coming to that point where the egoic self is broken through and we are able to come home to that place where all is still, where all is clear, where all is just as it is. And in that place where all is just as it is, the cry, please, I can't breathe, jumps out at us. And that is us. That is you. Please, I can't breathe. And in becoming that, then our lives are given a vision, an empowerment, a sense of direction. I am now called to direct my life so that I can address that cry of the earth in my own little way with my gifts, whether it be as a therapist, whether it be as a builder of buildings, whether it be as a teacher, whether it be as a cook, whether it be as a public servant, whether it be as a paralegal, whether it be as a student, in all the walks of life that we can take, that each and every one of us feel our particular sense of calling to, in that given concrete manifestation of your life as you are Each one of us is invited to give our lives to alleviate that cry, please, I can't breathe. I'd like to invite us all to sit today with that word, please, I can't breathe, as our mantra that I'm inviting everyone to just continue to be the guide to that place of stillness. For those who are practicing with Mu, if you want to try substituting that with Mu for today, and then I'll see you in Doksan as to how it's going. Please, I can't breathe. And just merge in that, to become one with that, and allow that to transform you into an awakened one. We thank George Floyd. We thank so many of the others who have cried out those words in so many different ways as that which makes us who we are. And we dedicate this session to them also. And we also dedicate our lives so that we may be part of that movement that will be a new creation, a new earth, whereby we are able to share with one another this powerful force that enlivens us, this breath. But new life comes first if we die to that little egoic self that wants to keep its place of safety, that wants to hold on to its identity, that wants to hold on to its reputation. That is what we're invited to see through and break through and allow to merge with what is. And for today, we are taking, please, I can't breathe, as that which can break through that and allow us to open up and see things as they are and allow us to become the reality of the world. There was a song in the 1980s that cried out, we are the world, we are the children. That was truly a resonant theme that we can also always adopt. We are the world, we are the children, we are, please, I can't breathe. And our Zen practice invites us to come to a place where that can be who we are. But in the midst of that, we also know that in the midst of that, we are at peace. We can experience a quiet joy and a sense of gratitude, but still empowered to give our lives, to change the world, and to allow that cry to always be our inspiration to connect with all our fellow sentient beings. The tears of Kuan Yin also guide us. The tears that accompany that cry, please, I cannot breathe. So I invite us to come back to our stillness and let that stillness guide us to a place where we may open up and see that place of connectedness with the whole universe and find our true self and find our way forward in this precious life.
Let us chant the verse of purification.